Where's the cat? All good. All good. It's all
Chief?
good.
I cannot hear you.
Still can't hear you. I heard you when you first came on. Chief Rutnick is trying to log back on right now to see if that fixes the sound issue for him. Hey, Lupita, I see that Chief Rutnick is as an attendee, if he can be promoted to panelist, and I believe we can begin. Chief, I don't know if you're trying to talk, but we're still not able to hear you.
Dan, can you hear me? Everybody?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
hear
I'm
you.
gonna have Dan come use my office.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm like, something's not right here. Well, welcome, everybody. Normally, I save my technical issues for my Board of Supervisors presentations, but apparently I'm getting it out of the way early this week. So hopefully Wednesday's board meeting will go smoothly for me. Again, sorry about that technical hiccup there, but welcome to the March 14th CCP meeting. With the delay, can we please get a roll call vote of the members, please?
Member Evans?
Aye.
Member Jakowski? Member Johnson?
Here.
Member Olson?
Here.
Member Lewis?
Here.
Member Miller?
Here.
Member Nigel?
Here.
Member Raven?
Here.
Member Sullivan? Absent. Member Valdez? Also absent. Member Vega?
Here.
Member Villegas?
Present.
Thank you. And Member Fruitnick?
Now I am present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Which brings us to agenda item number 2, consider approval of the agenda. As long as no one has any changes they'd like to make to it, can I get a motion to approve, please?
Sure, Miller, I'll make that motion.
Jonathan first, can we get a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a second by Mark. Roll call vote, please.
Member Evans?
Aye.
Member Jakowski?
Aye.
Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Olson?
Aye.
Member Lewis?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Nigel?
Aye.
Member Raven?
Aye.
Member Sullivan is absent. Member Valdez is also absent. Member Vega?
Yes.
Member Villegas?
Yes.
And Member Fruitnick?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed.
I think the motion was made by the Chief Miller. I think they said Jonathan. I think Chief Fruitnick said Jonathan by accident.
It was Chief Miller.
Chief Miller, gotcha. And then maybe I missed it, but did we get Garth on the votes or?
I
Yes.
believe I did.
Sorry about that. Okay, next is agenda item number 3. CCP action item, renew authorization for remote teleconference, video conference meetings by finding pursuant to Assembly Bill 361 that the COVID pandemic state of emergency is ongoing and local officials continue to recommend measures to promote social distancing and or meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of others. So this agenda item would authorize us to continue to hold this meeting remotely. If that's amenable to the group, can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Jonathan.
Jonathan first. Is there a second?
I'll second, Chief.
Ian second. Another roll call vote, please.
Member Evans?
Aye.
Member Jakowski?
Aye.
Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Olson? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Is that it? Thank you. Member Lewis?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Nigel?
Aye.
Member Raven?
Aye.
Member Sullivan is absent. Member Valdez is absent. Member Vega?
Yes.
Member Villegas? I think that was a yes, Supervisor Villegas.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. And Member Fruitnick.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes.
thank you. Brings us to agenda item number 4, public comment. Opportunity for members of the public to address the CCP on subjects related to CCP business and not otherwise on the agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment at this point?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Number 5, approve minutes of the February 14th, 2022 meeting. Hopefully everyone's had a moment to look at those. And if there's no edits that anyone deems necessary, can I get a motion to approve, please?
So
Are
moved.
there any edits that anyone would like to make?
So moved.
All right, Jonathan moves it. Can I get a second, please?
Johnson will second.
Under Sheriff Johnson, roll call vote, please.
Member Evans?
Same.
Member Jakowski?
My first CCP meeting, so I'll abstain.
Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Olson?
Abstain.
I'm sorry, you said abstain?
Yeah, I wasn't present either. I had a representative.
Member Lewis,
Abstain.
member Miller,
For Miller, aye.
member Nigel,
Aye.
member Raven,
Aye.
member Sullivan is absent, member Valdez is absent, member Vega,
Yes.
member Villegas,
Yes.
and member Fruitnick.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes with 4 abstentions and 2 absent.
Thank you. Brings us to number 6. Announcements of members. Are there any members that would like to make any announcements to the group or updates? Scanning the boxes, not seeing anyone look like they would like to make any announcements, which will bring us to number 7. Receive update on CCP member assignments. I'll turn this over to Clint.
All right, thank you, Chief Fruitnick. Good afternoon, members of the CCP. I am the analyst with the County Administrator's Office assigned to the Community Corrections Partnership. And I am just letting everybody know of member assignments. With Karen Larson's departure from Yolo County, it left a couple of seats open within the CCP. The Board of Supervisors met last week, and upon Karen's recommendation, Ian Evans has been named as her replacement for the executive committee of the CCP. And then additional seats that were filled are by Nolan Sullivan for the head of department for social services and head of department for employment, and Carlene Jakowski for head of department for mental health.
So yes, Evan will be the voting member of the executive committee. And then Nolan and Carlene will be on the full CCP membership. But for purposes of budget and other items, Ian will be the voting member.
Correct.
I'll open that up to comments or questions. If not, we can move on.
Chair,
Yes,
we have a hand raised. Christopher Koch.
we'll open it up to public comment. Go ahead, Christopher.
Hi, how you guys doing? My name is Christopher Cook. I work at Highlands Community Charter School. Last week, I was speaking with Ian, and basically what we are about, we are out to help the community, looking for people who are on parole, probation, to help them get their high school diploma. We also have a CTE program, and we also help them find jobs. So we was just reaching out to the community to see if you guys were interested in, us giving you guys some information about it, if you guys was interested. It's free to anyone who doesn't have a high school diploma. If you have a high school diploma, you cannot attend, but we have 37 campuses all the way from Camarillo down in LA, all the way up to Marysville. And we was just reaching out to the community.
Thank you. Yes, any information, maybe you can forward it to Clint for us and we can send it out to the group.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns about that agenda item? If not, we'll move on to number 8. Receive results from job training survey and consider next steps in implementing vocational development services. This is my item.
Hey, Chief, sorry to interrupt on the previous item. I don't know that Nolan was actually included on the invite for today's meeting or on the email. So I think if we can make sure that's updated for.
He was, I forwarded the invite to him and he acknowledged receipt of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him and just see if he has any questions or concerns, and for sure. But no, thanks for bringing that to our attention, and Clint, thanks for verifying that we at least attempted. But yeah, I'll reach out to Nolan and welcome him, and I should welcome Carlene and to the CCP. I'm sorry I missed that. We're excited to have the new people. Ian, we're excited too. You've been around for a little while, but we're happy to have you as well. Back to number 8, the jobs training survey. At a previous meeting, a member of the public, when we were discussing this agenda item, suggested that we conduct a survey. It was a great idea. And we did conduct a survey. 182 clients responded. And there's an attachment on your packet that shows the results. We're going to be reaching out to HHSA and seeing if there's something we can leverage with all of their opportunities over there. It's also been a good practice with my officers to look at those and go, looks like you're specifically interested in X, Y, and Z. And we can look internally and figure out different roadmaps forward. So we did put $40,000, a CCP did this year for vocational training. This is just trying to keep it moving forward. Now we have some data and information. We're also out for the, as this panel is aware, the DRC RFP. We'll use this information to help with that RFP as well, now that we have what our clients are saying they're interested in and some of their information. So we're excited about that. With that being said, I'll turn it over to the group for comments or questions about that. Looks like Supervisor Villegas.
Thank you, Chief. I might be speaking out of turn. You may have already done this, but I'm just wondering if it's possible that we can get kind of a status update on the Day Reporting Center work that's been happening throughout the county. I know, well, if it's been done, I can get it offline, but if it hasn't, it might be a good opportunity to update the committee on the status of the work that is happening before the end of the extension that's being discussed.
I think I got that about where we're at with the extension or where we're at overall with the Day Reporting Center. Sorry, I'm trying to find Rochelle's volume here to make sure I can hear.
Yeah, no. It's just a status of kind of where the community corrections the Day Reporting Center is in terms of, I mean, obviously it took a sucker punch during the pandemic the last couple of years. And so I'm just curious in terms of where it's at relative to the numbers, the work that's happening, things that are occurring, things that are working, things that are not, so that we can all be kind of seeing the same information as we go through this process. You've already discussed the extension, so that doesn't need to be rehashed, but just in terms of how it's working, I guess, in one form or another. If it's already been done, that's fine. I can get it offline.
Yeah, no, I'll give my update or where I think we're at, and then Mark, feel free to chime in as well. Since about late December, our referrals are starting to trickle back up, and we're doubling down on our need to make referrals. We're still doing some hybrid classes via Zoom, and then in-person classes are starting to open back up as well. Working with SCOE to, it's kind of in the beginning phases, but Placer County, Sacramento County, and Yolo County have all realized the same thing, that there's a need to do off hours, weekend classes for our population. A lot of them do have conflicts. A lot of them are working. And so traditional hours maybe aren't the best moving forward. So we're working with those 3 counties to do some Zoom classes coming up, to where if you remember a client in Placer County, you could jump on one, and here in Yolo County, vice versa, to try to open it up as much as possible to our clients. And we've scheduled our next DRC steering committee meeting for April. I forget the exact date, but early April, to where all the partners come together with CDCR and all the local partners to kind of reevaluate where we're at and where to move forward in the next quarter. Mark, that's off the top of my head. I don't know if you want to jump in with anything.
I was just going to say that if they want to, if the group would like an update, Chris and I would have no problem giving an update, whether it's, in the next couple of months or wrapping up this fiscal year of what things look like. And we can send out other information or invite Supervisor Saylor to the steering committee as well, where some of that more detail of what is actually happening right now will be, worked out as well. So we can do a presentation. All the programming that you talked about is currently happening, at both sites in West Sacramento and Woodland, and trying to leverage that Zoom opportunity to reach more clients in either outreaching areas or clients that are working full time, so they can continue to engage or re-engage in programs. So, we can make sure Supervisor Saylor is invited, or Saylor, sorry about that, Oscar Villegas, to the steering committee. And then if the group would like us to do a presentation and update of what current programming looks like in numbers, we would be happy to do that as well.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if it's just me that's interested, I can take it offline and I can get the information from you folks. But if the rest of the committee is interested, maybe it can get presented as an agenda item, just kind of a status update. Nothing extensive. I'm just curious where it's at. Thank you, Mark.
I'll potentially work with Chris and Mark too to do a Friday board update. We could do it in that meeting as well for everybody. Other comments or questions on the vocational survey and where we hope to move next to?
Yeah,
Peter, any? Oh,
I would-
go ahead.
Yeah, a couple questions. One is, I would piggyback on Supervisor Diego's request. I'd be interested in hearing an update also on the DRC, in particular around the relationship with the build out with the sheriff's department and sort of where we are with that piece. And then YCOE has been involved with the educational component. Would be very interested in re-engaging in the conversation there also. And then on the data that you're discussing this afternoon, I wonder with the clients that were able to respond, if there's any information. I know that there was talk at one point about recidivism and sort of correlating some of the programming that's happened with recidivism rates. Has there been any cross-checking, triangulation with these data here and the rate of recidivism for those individuals who responded? And maybe I'm missing it, maybe it's here, but I'm just curious to know whether or not, in terms of programming that folks are participating in, and their then outcomes that they're experiencing, is recidivism part of that consideration?
For this survey, no, we haven't cross-checked it with recidivism. This survey was also done anonymously, so a lot of the clients did choose to put their name down, but a good portion chose not to as well. So this was just more to get their insight and their interests in specific vocational training in different areas.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Lapita, any public comment on this agenda item?
Sorry, there are no hands raised, Chair.
All right, thank you. Which will move us to agenda item number 9. Receive update on the work of the Outcomes and Metrics Ad Hoc Subcommittee and hopefully approve a 3-year or 3-month extension of the subcommittee. With that, I'll turn it over to Clint.
All right, thank you, Chief Ritnick. Clint Pyatt again with the County Administrator's Office. Back in October 11th, the CCP formed an Outcomes and Metrics Ad Hoc Subcommittee. And the subcommittee they were to meet to discuss different outcome measures and metrics surrounding the CCP budget policies and to implement any sort of effective and feasible outcome and measures. Of that, the group is made up of Sheriff's Department, Probation, HHSA, and a victim representative, who is Laura Valdez. The group met on November 22nd to discuss models for measurement and outcomes as well. They also discussed different models that may work with work for all CCP departments. The discussion involved using the outcomes from the Board of Supervisors strategic plan, for example, reducing crime recidivism, program outcomes, and pairing with the stepping up outcomes as well. There was some discussion around some challenges that different departments may face because not all of the models would work with individual departments. So our next step in the process is to schedule individual meetings with departments to discuss what outcomes have been established within those departments, and then also what are some of the challenges that the departments are seeing with meeting those outcomes or meeting those metrics. This was a 3-month appointment of the ad hoc. And so since that was established on October 11th, we are asking for a 3-month extension so we can follow through with the individual meetings with the departments and then have the ad hoc come back together to discuss how those meetings went and to develop a plan to bring forward to the CCP.
Open it up to the CCP members for comments or discussion. I don't see any. Lapita, do we have any public comment on this agenda item?
There are no hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. With that being said, may I get a motion to approve the 3-month extension?
I can make that motion.
First by Tracy. Can I get a
Is it 3
second?
months, is it 3 months from today or 3 months? It's 3 months from today, I assume, correct? Got it. Motion.
Okay, first by Tracy. Is there a second?
Miller will second.
Okay, second by Chief Miller. Lapita, can we get a roll call vote, please? For approval.
Member Evans?
Aye.
Member Jakowski?
Aye.
Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Olson?
Aye.
Member Lewis? I'm assuming that was an aye. Member Lewis?
It is, and the hesitancy you're hearing in my voice is simply because I'm not sure as not being a member of the executive committee, whether or not I should be voting on this item. Simply because there's a cost associated with it. But if I am, my vote is aye.
That's a good question, Phil. Any guidance?
Yeah, I don't know. I say we just continue taking the votes from everybody.
Let's do that. Let's continue with the executive committee then on this item. Yes, please.
But I meant well, are we doing everybody? I thought we were taking everybody.
Sorry, the full membership of the CCP.
So we'll continue with Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Nigel,
Aye.
Member Raven,
Aye.
Member Sullivan is absent, Member Valdez is absent, Member Vega,
Yes.
Member Villegas,
Yes.
and Member Fruitnik.
Yes,
Okay, motion passes.
thank you. Agenda item number 10, receive and file an update on the 22-23 revenue estimates for the CCP. I'll turn this over to Laura. Can we make her a panelist, please?
Good afternoon, Laura Liticote, Probation Fiscal Administrative Officer and Fiscal Support to the CCP, here today with a brief fiscal year 22-23 budget projection. On February 3rd, the Department of Financial Services provided CCP revenue estimates to departmental fiscal officers for the coming fiscal year. The DFS projection for the CCP was $11,388,000, a figure considerably higher than initial projections this group has discussed previously, due largely to higher than anticipated growth allocation. The report included in your agenda packet provides a table breaking down that projected revenue into the percentage-based model. The table also provides departmental variances from the current fiscal year budgeted revenue. On February 28th, CSAC provided DFS with further revised revenue projections. These revised figures reflect only an $18,000 reduction from current year revenues. Requested budgets were submitted to DFS prior to the release of these revised estimates, so DFS will be working with departments during the normal budget process to adjust revenues as appropriate. A table was also provided in the staff report that shows current departmental fund balances based on action at the February 14th meeting. I expect year-end fund balances may be higher than that table projects, given delays in implementation of new programming and delays in hiring for new positions. Revised fund balance information will be provided to the CCP prior to the adopted budget process this summer. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Chief, I don't know if this is a question for you or Laura or maybe somebody else, but can somebody remind me what the policy we decided on or the exec committee decided on was, how do we deal with these unspent funds? I thought at one point we had discussion that they would like roll over to the next year and stay in the same buckets. So treatment would go to treatment next year.
Correct.
Sheriff would go to sheriff next year, et cetera. Is that okay?
That is the case, yes. So any unspent revenue or savings in treatment programs that were delayed for starting would fall to the treatment dedicated fund balance to be reallocated as needed or seen fit by the CCP.
Okay, great, thank you.
Supervisor Vegas, was that your question as well? I saw you coming off of mute, but.
It was, thank you.
Not
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lupita, any public comment on this agenda item?
No, there are no hands raised.
Which brings us to agenda item number 11, discussion on CCP strategic plan process and timeline. I'll turn this over to Clint as well.
All right, thank you. Again, I'm Clint Pyatt with the County Administrator's Office, analyst for the CCP. I have the pleasure to talk about the CCP strategic plan timeline. The strategic plan is due to be revised and go into effect starting January of next year, January of 2023. With that, we wanted to discuss the optimal timeline in order to have the draft strategic plan presented to the Board of Supervisors and approved by the Board of Supervisors by November. And then prior to that, all the steps that needed to take place in order to have that drafted plan put together and put into place. I know in the past, there were a variety of different processes that happened in order to put the strategic plan together, some of them being community meetings, some of them being maybe ad hocs or special groups, special committees formed in order to discuss the strategic plan. So with that, I wanted to bring it forward to the CCP membership about the strategic plan process, what they would like to see involved with the timeline for getting everything put together, drafted, and approved through the Board of Supervisors by November for implementation in January.
I know we just have the one slide. Are we able to share that?
I believe so. I just sent that over. Sorry, Lupita. I think I just sent it over to you, the timeline to show for this if you received it.
If not, it just basically has those dates. Oh, there it is.
Lupita, yeah.
So it shows us from where we're at today. It needs to go into effect or operation by January 1st, 2023. I'd like to have it approved by the board in November. So we're talking about an 8-month time frame. And we just wanted to have a discussion with the group. I know there's members that have been on various time frames when we've done this in the past and how we would like to do it. Do we want special meetings of the CCP to work on it as a group? Do we want to form an ad hoc? A public outreach portion will be part of it. I was hoping we could discuss how that may look. And just as we all know, and just trying to do this with each department and globally, 8 months will fly by, and we have a lot of work to do in that 8 months. It seems like a while, but we're going to have to set milestones and just keep the gas pedal down to get there. So with that, I'll open it up to the group for comments or discussion. Supervisor?
Yeah, Chief, I just curious, what is your sort of vision for the steps for the strategic plan? I'm not familiar with the process. It's my first go around. So I'm assuming that there's an existing one. Do we look at that as part of the process, or do we try to reinvent the wheel, or do we look at areas where we're deficient or changing course and then kind of adjust accordingly? Or what's your sort of?
I think we do have one we're currently operating under. Having looked at that over the years and recently, I believe needs to be some significant modification to it. Some of that is just the way we're doing business now, some legislative changes, some of the goals didn't necessarily have real defined outcomes and objectives to them. So I think as a group, we'll want to look at those and reevaluate. Prior to this last go around, I know in 2013 or so, there were pretty robust public meetings held. And Tracy, you may be the most familiar with that time period when we were doing it. And if that's the route we would like to go, we probably need to get those dates out there ASAP for everybody in the various communities. I am a little hesitant to form an ad hoc just because we have a couple and that's maybe not the best way forward. I'm leaning towards having, please group, don't get mad at me, but special meetings of the CCP to work on them in total with everybody. I think we would have more forward momentum going that route. However, it does tie up a lot of people and for various hours. Tracy?
As for the community engagement, that was a very time-intensive dedication of effort. And I don't know how productive it was, since we've come a long way since then, because now everyone knows Zoom and is capable of using Zoom. Part of the problem, I think, maybe before, besides the fact that we were in different locations at different times, is just people couldn't necessarily, that wanted to participate, weren't able to do it with work. So if we do community outreach, I would like to propose we do something that's digital. I think it's easier for people to participate. And I think then we can have one or two, maybe just one session rather than 3 or 4 like we did last time. So that'd be my proposal for community engagement. And then I would agree we probably shouldn't have an ad hoc. I fear that that group would do a lot of work and then bring it to the big group, and then the big group would want to start over a little bit anyway. So I would suggest that we just have special meetings. I don't know how many it would be, but that would be my vote.
Okay. Does anyone oppose special meetings?
I mean, I agree with Tracy's sentiment, in terms of the larger group working on it together. I think we've done a lot over the last, several years. When I look back, was it 2019 was the last one, and we were just getting into kind of the stepping up sequential intercept map work, and we did a revise of that during that time period in October of 2019. And so I think there's pieces that we could leverage there if we even want to lean on like Kevin coming in to help facilitate, some of this and bring data to the equation from his perspective. I think he could, he has time and capacity, and we have the resources to fund him for that if the group desires. And Dan, Chief, I totally agree with, what you said in terms of how we formulate it this time. I think, looking at like the SMART goals concept, I think would be really prudent, so that we do have clear objectives, that they are time measured, and that we have a way to kind of keep ourselves and our departments accountable to them and track back. And then I'd propose, something like an annual update where we decide if we're carrying an item forward, or if we feel like it's made enough progress that it's completed, and or if it's, currently in progress. We've done that in the past in HHSA with some of our strategic plans, and sometimes you get a year or two in and things have changed so much that you decide that it's a full stop on an item and you remove it from your plan because it totally doesn't make sense given the current environment. A lot of times it's multiple things in progress and you carry them forward, and some are getting underway. And so I think building that out and having time associated with it and data, right? We're also a lot further along in terms of data than we were 3+ years ago when this was being developed.
Good points. Lupita, is there any public comment on this item?
Yes, Francesca Wright.
Go ahead, Ms. Wright.
Hello, I agree with the 2 previous commenters. I think we've advanced to find that Zoom is an effective platform and it's actually accessible. The problem is, I think it's as some PR firm in Sacramento says, it's kind of like winking in the dark. When the public isn't aware what CCP partnership is, what it does, what its accomplishments, and how far it has progressed in its previous strategic plans. So in terms of the specific activities related to the process, which is the agenda item is the process for outreaches, I would add something around public awareness and public education around as a step in the process, which could include op-eds, it could include some press releases. It even could include some TV or radio demonstrating some of the gains that the group has accomplished. So proactive community awareness needs to be added. Second of all, well, the public outreach, I'm fine with it being Zoom. I think actually makes it more accessible than having to be at a particular time and place. The last is in terms of public input, what's been missing in the other two strategic planning processes that I've been aware of was deliberate methods to collect feedback and ideas from impacted families. So that could take the form of interviews or focus groups, could be telephone interviews, it could be surveys. But if you are trying to measure your impact, it seems like you want to go to the most impacted populations and learn from them what you've been doing that's been most beneficial and most helpful, as well as what ideas they have for doing things in a way that could be more helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to, let me ask real quick, Lupita, is there any other public comment?
Yes, Sheila Allen.
Then Tracy will go to you. Sheila, go ahead.
Yes, hi, I'm Sheila Allen. I'm the new deputy for Supervisor Provenza. Most of you know me, but if not, that's my role here. And I just wanted to thank Francesca for that public comment. As somebody who, before I started this position, I consider myself a pretty well-informed citizen, and I had never heard of the CCP or what its role was. So I think educating the public and then asking for information and input from them would be a good idea. So thank you.
Thank you. Lupita, other public comment?
No, there are no additional hands raised.
We'll go Tracy.
I just wanted to offer, my office had sent surveys to incarcerated people within the last year or so, asking questions about what kind of services they thought they needed and was missing. So I can make that information available to this group. It doesn't necessarily answer all of Francesca's suggestions, but it answers part of it. So that data does exist in my office right now, and I can share that if you want.
I think that would be great. Other CCP members' comments? Supervisor Vegas?
Yeah, thank you, Chief, and thank you, Francesca, and thank you, Tracy. That would be awesome. I think it would certainly take add a unique twist to the strategic planning process if we incorporate in some form or fashion feedback from those affected by the system. Maybe you don't do that every time, but certainly as a way to kind of address it maybe from a different perspective. This going forward with this one, it might be a good way to incorporate a lens that has not traditionally used to develop a strategic plan for the Community Corrections Partnership. So I'd be interested in seeing what that data looks like for sure.
Ian, go ahead.
I know we're talking about development of the next strategic plan, but I wasn't, here in this capacity when we closed out the previous one. So I wonder if we also want to have discussion either today or at some point about, how do we kind of officially close out our existing strategic plan and what kind of steps do we need to take to do that over the next 8-9 months as we come close to the end of 2022? What kind of information do we want? Who needs to be involved? And figure out those pieces.
No, good point. My thoughts were, while we do this over the next couple months, we'll have to look at what worked and where we're still at with the current plan. And that would also be, in essence, in November-ish next year to the board would be a closeout / new plan. And we could go over what worked, what didn't, what we're carrying forward, why we aren't carrying some of the goals forward, what we've accomplished, et cetera. That was my thoughts on the topic. If we needed to bring it back earlier than that, we can, but I think that would coincide with the timelines pretty good. All right, so now the tough question of when's our first special meeting? Are we going next month? Does the second Monday of the month work for everybody? We can send out potentially a poll. What just some thoughts on that? If anybody has any.
Chief, I don't know if it's an old invite or an error or not, but I already have a CCP invite on my calendar for the 11th for April.
Okay. I do think the sooner we get going, the better. And that first meeting can kind of be, we'll go over the current plan with everybody and kind of just start prepping the work. And then I'll work with Clint and we'll get some timelines maybe defined for the group and a little outline of how this might work, if that's okay with everybody.
Just to answer Ian's question, that April 11th, I believe it's an old calendar invite from Eric, and that was when the CCP was meeting every 3 months. So just so you're aware, if there's any Zoom information, it will not work. I'll send out new invites, and it was every other month in this year. So anything from me is valid.
I'm looking at the chat. A couple have said that works. Why don't we, for right now, hold on to the 11th, and that'll be a special meeting of the CCP for strategic planning purposes. And we'll go from there, and then Clint can refresh the invite so everybody has a current working link, and we'll go from there if it's amenable to everybody. All right. Brings us to number 12. Unless there are any objections, we can end the meeting. Thanks everybody for your time, and we'll see you next month, if not sooner. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.